So picture this. It's past midnight in Chennai. The year is 2001.
Right. Most of the city is completely asleep.
Exactly. And suddenly the darkness is just shattered by these flashing lights. Police vehicles are pulling up to a residence, and inside it is just chaos.
Shouting, confusion.
Yeah, because the police have arrived to arrest M. Karunanidhi. I mean, we're talking about a towering patriarch of Tamil Nadu politics, a former chief minister.
Which is a massive deal. And, in decades past, an event like this would have just been recorded by police logs. Maybe a few photographs get snapped.
Right, and the public would read this really detailed, dry account in the morning newspaper about the Prevention of Corruption Act.
But this wasn't decades past. The cameras were already rolling.
They were. The footage was grainy, it was visceral, it showed a 78-year-old leader being physically handled by police. You could hear his distress right there in the audio.
And it was broadcast almost immediately.
Yeah, and not just once. It played on this continuous, relentless loop on television screens across the whole state. Just hour after hour with, that dramatic music and screaming graphics.
It was a total watershed moment. Because the public wasn't just being invited to read about a legal proceeding anymore. They were being violently pulled into this raw, emotional spectacle.
Wow.
The broadcast completely bypassed the rational part of the brain, the part that asks questions about warrants and legal codes. It just went straight for the nervous system.
Exactly. What you were watching wasn't just a report of a crisis. The broadcast itself kind of became the crisis.
Right. It ignited protests, paralyzed the state. It totally reshaped the political reality of the nation.
And that visceral moment, it really forces us to stop and ask a fundamental question about the screen that you are staring at right now.
Absolutely.
So hello, everyone. Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. I really want to speak directly to you today. Yeah, you listening right now.
We've got a really intense topic lined up.
We do. But real quick, before we get started, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this video on the Noolisam YouTube channel. We appreciate the support.
Definitely. Go do that.
So, today's topic, Tamil Nadu media. Are they showing you the truth, or are they shaping a narrative?
It's such a vital question.
Because every single day we see so many breaking news updates. Your phone buzzes, the TV flashes red. But are all of them really important, or are they just sensational content created for TRP and attention?
Well, it's an incredibly complex ecosystem. It's honestly one of the most unique and fiercely contested media environments in the world.
It really is. And this brings us to the very specific questions you wanted us to explore today. We are looking at a massive stack of sources here. Academic papers, historical archives, media watchdog reports, investigative articles.
And a core question just keeps coming up in all of them.
Right. Now let's ask it. Are some media outlets fully exposing government mistakes? Or are certain issues, especially related to the DMK government or other major parties, just not getting enough coverage?
People are definitely asking that.
Yeah, is this just a perception, or is there actually some level of structural bias? Because the concerns people raise are really loud, important issues aren't getting attention, critical reporting seems limited, some topics are totally ignored.
But then on the other side, not all media is the same.
Exactly. There are still platforms that provide balanced and fair reporting, so how are you supposed to know what is real?
Right. But before we go any further into the mechanics of this, I need to step in and establish a really firm ground rule for this deep dive.
Good call. Lay it out.
The material we are examining today contains highly politically charged claims. It involves deep critiques of the DMK, the AIA-DMK, the BJP, the Congress, and various others.
Yep.
Let me make this explicitly clear to everyone listening. Neither of us sitting at this microphone is taking any political sides today.
Zero. We do not have a horse in this race.
We do not endorse the viewpoints, the allegations, or the political stances of the original authors. Our sole mission is to impartially unpack the ideas and the data contained in the material.
Right. We are just here to dismantle the engine of the media machine and show you how the parts work. Because the role of media is to present the truth, not to support or oppose any political party.
Perfectly said.
So to understand how we got from the printing press to that chaotic midnight broadcast in 2001 and then to the algorithms on your phone today, we actually have to rewind.
Let's do it.
Because what is so fascinating about Tamil journalism is that it wasn't born in a corporate boardroom. It wasn't businessmen looking to sell ads for soap. It was born in the streets. It was a revolution.
It was fundamentally an activist enterprise.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the late 19th and early 20th centuries, print journalism was quite literally a weapon forged for social reform and anti-colonial mobilization.
Wow.
Because prior to this, information was heavily gated. He was locked behind this complex formal language, restricted mostly to a highly educated, often upper caste elite.
So the newspaper wasn't for the common person at all.
No, it was a luxury item for the privileged.
And then you have these radical figures stepping up. You have G. Subramania Iyer, who founded Swazimatran in 1882,
Yes.
and the legendary poet Subramania Bharati editing a publication called India. They looked at the landscape and did something incredibly disruptive. They decided to write in simple, accessible Tamil.
Which changed everything.
It did. They totally bypassed the elite gatekeepers and spoke directly to the masses.
That linguistic shift just cannot be overstated. By democratizing the language, they democratized the information. These early journalists didn't view themselves as just neutral observers.
Right.
They viewed the newspaper as a classroom. Their explicit mission was to awaken a political consciousness,
Yeah.
educate the public about their rights, and mobilize them against British rule.
And that activist DNA carries right into the next massive historical shift, which is the Dravidian movement. You have Periyar E.V. Ramasamy launching Kudi Arasu in 1925.
A hugely important publication.
Yeah, and this wasn't just a paper telling you the price of grain. It was an ideological battering ram. It was used specifically to challenge Brahminical orthodoxy, promote rationalism, and dismantle caste hierarchies. The media was a teacher.
Exactly. The foundation of the press in Tamil Nadu was ideological. It was challenging the establishment. But the very success of that model, the fact that it was so effective at changing minds, it actually laid the groundwork for the modern problems we see today.
Because it got too big.
Essentially, yeah. The printing press transitioned from producing ideological pamphlets for a movement to producing daily newspapers for a massive, newly literate general public.
And the undisputed architect of that transition is S.P. Adithanar.
Oh, without a doubt.
When he launched Dinathanthi, he completely rewired the formula.
Right.
He looked at this growing working class, people in rural areas just learning to read, and realized they didn't want dense philosophical essays every morning.
They wanted a hook.
Exactly. So he introduces bold, screaming headlines. He leans heavily into local crime reporting and, crucially, massive coverage of cinema.
It was the birth of the mass market daily. It was engineered for mass appeal, designed to grab the attention of a laborer on his way to work.
My favorite analogy for this shift is imagine that early activist press as a very serious university classroom. The professor is up front lecturing on social reform. Everyone's taking notes.
Right.
And suddenly, the back doors are kicked open, and the classroom is instantly converted into a massive, loud movie theater. The doors are open to everyone. The audience size explodes. But the content goes from philosophy to action thrillers and local gossip.
It's a perfect way to visualize it. The democratization of access came at the cost of intellectual depth.
But wait, I'm struggling to see this as a purely negative thing. Like, wasn't this transition essential, even if it meant the front page was dominated by a local theft or a movie star's marriage? Didn't this massively increase basic literacy?
It absolutely did.
Because it seems like it forced millions of previously ignored people into a daily habit of reading, which eventually made them more politically aware anyway, right?
You are totally right to point that out. It was a monumental achievement in mass literacy. It gave the working class a daily connection to the broader world.
Yeah.
But here is the mechanism that triggered the modern problem. This mass appeal created a tool of unprecedented, almost terrifying power. It mobilized voters on a scale never seen before.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah. And when the political parties saw the sheer power of this mass communication, they had a major realization.
They realized they were playing the wrong game. If you're a politician back then, you realize you can't just write polite letters to an editor hoping they print your speech.
Precisely. They realized that merely influencing the news was no longer sufficient. If the newspaper could sway 1 million votes overnight, you couldn't leave that power in the hands of an independent editor.
You had to own it.
Yes. To truly hold power, to guarantee your political survival, you needed to own the printing presses. And later, you needed to own the transmission towers.
And that brings us to the absolute core of the Tamil Nadu media landscape today. This is what researchers call the media politics complex.
It's a fascinating and troubling structure.
Because when we transition from print to the explosion of satellite television, it becomes an outright arms race. The boundary between a political party's headquarters and a television channel's newsroom just vanishes.
To understand this, we have to look at the unique political friction in the state. For decades, Tamil Nadu politics had been defined by the deeply ideological rivalry between the DMK and the AIA-DMK.
Right, it's a battle for the soul of the state.
Exactly. So when the DMK recognized the power of television to broadcast their narrative directly into living rooms, the AIADMK immediately realized they couldn't survive without their own counter-narrative.
The result is this deeply entrenched, politically affiliated media directory. Let's actually map this out because the sheer volume of networks tied to politicians is staggering in the
It
sources.
really is an extensive web.
On one side, you have the massive reach of Sun News. This
Yeah.
is part of the Sun Group, owned by Kalanithi Maran, the grandnephew of the late DMK leader M. Karunanidhi. Then you have Kalainar TV, launched directly by members of the Karunanidhi family. So that's a massive media apparatus deeply intertwined with the DMK.
But the AIADMK built their own electronic fortresses.
Yeah, you have Jaya TV acting as a powerful voice for factions of the AIADMK, closely linked to VK Sasikala. And then later you saw the creation of NewsJ, founded by Idappa DK Palaniswamy, giving his faction its own megaphone.
And it cascades down to almost every significant political player.
It totally does. The PMK has Makal TV. The late actor-politician Vijay Kant's party, the DMDK, has Captain TV. The Congress Party has historical links through Vasanth TV and Mega TV.
Even the BJP's influence was visible with Lotus News.
It is literally a directory of political war rooms disguised as broadcast centers.
And this structural reality creates a massive economic anomaly. This is crucial for understanding how the news gets shaped today.
How so?
Well, in a traditional media market, a news channel is a business. It exists to generate profit through advertising. If a channel consistently bleeds money, investors pull out, and the channel goes dark.
Right, that's just basic capitalism.
But in this ecosystem, many of these politically affiliated channels operate at a profound financial loss. They hemorrhage cash.
Which makes no sense. If I open a restaurant and lose money for 5 years, I close it. Why do these channels stay on the air?
Because you are thinking of them as businesses. They are not businesses. They are political assets.
Oh, wow.
Think of the financial loss not as a business failure, but as a political marketing expense. Running a 247 news channel is expensive, but for a political party, it allows them to manufacture consent.
Right, they shape the daily narrative from morning to night.
Yes. They use it to mobilize party cadres, to amplify their leaders' speeches, to attack the opposition. A few $1 million lost in operating costs is a bargain if it secures a massive electoral victory.
Okay, so this brings us right back to the listener-specific question. Are critical issues about the government ignored? Let's look at the absolute dark side of this ownership model.
The VV Minerals case study is the perfect illustration of this.
Right, so VV Minerals is this incredibly powerful beach sand mining company. The chairman, S. Vaikundarajan, has faced numerous highly documented allegations regarding illegal beach sand mining across Tamil Nadu's coastline.
We are talking about the alleged destruction of natural sand dunes, operating without clearances, just massive ecological damage.
Now here is where the media complex comes in. Vaikundarajan isn't just a mining baron, he is deeply embedded in the media landscape. He's linked to News 7 Tamil and previously held a director position at Jaya TV.
And investigative journalism has shown how, for over 3 decades, across successive governments, official reports detailing this illegal mining were repeatedly shelved.
Bureaucrats would document the infractions, submit the reports, and then nothing, just buried.
I want to walk through the mechanics of how a story like that gets killed in a modern newsroom.
It's a very quiet process.
Let's say you're an idealistic investigative journalist at one of these networks. You get a tip about massive excavators destroying a beach at 3 a.m. You go out, take samples, take photos, build an airtight case.
Right, you bring it to your editor. You drop the file and say, we have them. And then the editor looks at the file, they look at the name of the mining company, and then they look at their own channel's corporate structure.
And they realize the company committing the crime is a major financial backer of the channel or tied to their political patrons.
Exactly. The editor doesn't scream. They just say, we don't have the legal budget to fight this, or let's focus on the local elections instead. The story just dies in a quiet whisper.
It is suffocated. A politically backed channel will relentlessly expose the flaws of the opposition party, but they are fundamentally disincentivized from reporting on the crimes of their own parent company.
So, to answer the listener, yes. The structural reality means critical issues are highly likely to be ignored or manipulated based entirely on who owns the transmission towers.
Exactly.
But wait, this creates a massive logistical problem. If you're a news channel, killing all the deep investigative pieces, what do you fill the other 23 hours of airtime with? You still need viewers, right?
You give them a spectacle. If you cannot hook viewers with depth, you must hook them with adrenaline. And that brings us to the TRP trap.
television rating points, which is basically the minute-by-minute measurement of how many people are watching.
And this metric dictates the financial lifeblood of the industry. Newsrooms operate like Wall Street day traders, panicking if viewers change the channel during a commercial break.
The statistics on this are horrifying. Researchers call it the breaking news syndrome. Because of this desperate race for TRPs, one analysis notes that a staggering 70% of news content now prioritizes pure sensationalism over substance.
70%. It's an inversion of the journalistic mandate.
Meanwhile, genuine investigative journalism has plummeted by 50%.
Because the metric of success is no longer accuracy or public utility. It's the volume of the audience and the intensity of their emotional reaction. If a broadcast makes you outraged enough to stay through the commercials, it's a success.
You can see this in print, too. There was a study of 6 major dailies in Tamil Nadu looking at their front pages, and they found an overwhelming focus on what they call the 3 Cs.
Cinema, crime, and cricket.
Yes, Collywood gossip, local murders, sports scores, while existential issues like climate change or systemic corruption are just ignored entirely.
And when you put that on 24/7 television, it becomes theatrical. Veteran journalist S. Srinivasan calls it performance journalism.
I love his phrasing. He says TV news anchors have become gladiators, and primetime news is a theater of the absurd.
He's pointing out that the primetime debate is no longer a search for truth. It's an orchestrated shouting match. The anchor is a ringmaster hired to provoke and generate conflict.
And this active engineering of panic has dangerous consequences. Like during the West Asia conflict, the central government actually had to step in and suspend TRP ratings.
Because channels were engaging in what the government called unwarranted sensationalism.
They were playing terrifying music, looping explosions, maybe even using AI-generated visuals to make the conflict look apocalyptic. And this was causing real psychological trauma for Indian families who had relatives working in the Gulf.
They were artificially inflating a war narrative just to boost ratings. It was a rare acknowledgement that the commercial drive for TRPs had dangerously conflicted with public safety.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate for a second. The Prezi presentation in our sources points out that TRPs are just a reflection of consumer demand.
Right.
So if a channel is innovating its graphics and finding dramatic ways to tell a story to keep my attention, isn't that just good television? Why is it inherently bad to be entertaining?
It's a valid question. TRPs do drive innovation. But we have to look at what specific elements are being innovated. Data shows about 40% of viewers actively want entertaining news.
So the channels respond.
Yes, but they don't respond by innovating new data journalism methods. They innovate the special effects, the flashing lights, the swoosh sound effects, the hyperbolic language on the ticker.
They just make it louder.
Exactly. As Marshall McLuhan said, the medium is the message. When the medium requires hyperstimulated visual engagement to survive, the information's depth is systematically sacrificed for the dazzle of the presentation.
And if everything has to be a spectacle, that fundamentally changes what we consider to be a news story. The media isn't just reflecting reality anymore, they are actively constructing it.
This leads directly to anthropologist Francis Cody's concept of the news event.
Break that down for us. What is a news event?
A news event occurs when the boundary collapses between the actual event happening in the physical world and the media's act of reporting it. In a sensationalized ecosystem, the broadcast itself is the event.
Which brings us right back to the cold open of this deep dive, the 2001 midnight arrest of M. Karunanidhi.
The textbook definition of a news event. Sun TV didn't just report the facts, they captured the raw, chaotic footage of the raid and looped it.
Right, because if you just read about it in the newspaper, you process it linearly. You read the charges, you analyze the legality, you have time to think.
But Sun TV gave them a visual and auditory loop. By broadcasting that footage of a revered leader in distress over and over, they bypassed the audience's analytical faculties.
Yeah.
It appealed purely to emotion.
The camera became an active participant in generating political outrage.
Exactly. The broadcast shaped how the entire nation interpreted the event, leading to mass protests. The media engineered the emotional landscape of the crisis.
That is incredible. And we are seeing this exact triumph of spectacle over substance playing out right now with actor-politicians. Look at actor Vijay and his new party, the TVK.
The intersection of cinema and politics is historic in Tamil Nadu, with leaders like MGR and Jayalalitha But modern media amplifies this celebrity dynamic to a degree that suffocates actual political discourse.
There's an interview with author Vasanthi in the materials. She points out that when MGR or Jayalalitha entered politics, they articulated distinct ideologies and welfare programs. But with Vijay, she argues there's a noticeable lack of clear policy platforms. And yet, the media treats his every move as a seismic event. They cover his political launch like a movie audio launch.
Because policy is boring to the TRP machine. Celebrity is profitable. The media focuses overwhelmingly on his star power and the spectacle of his massive crowds, rather than interrogating his agricultural policy.
And this obsession with spectacle has fatal consequences. The research details a horrifying tragedy in Karur. During a TVK rally, a stampede broke out, and between 39 and 41 people lost their lives.
It was a catastrophic failure of event management.
But look at the media narrative. Vasanthi points out that despite this preventable loss of life, much of the media projected Vijay as blameless. Instead of asking hard questions about emergency exits or crowd limits, the focus pivoted back to his popularity.
The implicit message was, look how loved he is. His fans just couldn't contain themselves.
It was a total abdication of journalistic accountability. The Supreme Court of India actually had to order a CBI probe because local accountability mechanisms were failing so spectacularly.
And this directly answers the listener's frustration. When you tune in wanting to understand a public safety disaster, and you get a reality show about a celebrity's charisma instead, you feel manipulated.
It's exhausting, but if you think television turning news into a gladiatorial theater is bad, just brace yourself. Because the shift to the smartphone didn't fix this, it strapped a rocket to it.
Social media is an unregulated, algorithmic battlefield. It's governed by lines of code designed to maximize human engagement at any ethical cost.
The stats are staggering. 56% of Indian respondents now rely on YouTube as a primary source for their news. Over half the population is bypassing traditional news anchors.
And traditional legacy TV is bleeding viewers. So they've adopted the exact same tactics as unverified YouTube clickbait creators, the cost of clicks.
Think about your morning routine. You open YouTube and see a thumbnail designed in a lab to hack your brain. A politician looking furious, a massive red arrow pointing to nothing, and a title in all caps. You won't believe what he just said?
It's pure psychological manipulation. The content often has nothing to do with the thumbnail, but the algorithm registers the click, the channel gets the ad revenue, and the mission is accomplished.
And this engagement farming is breeding an epidemic of misinformation. A study on Tamil media misinformation found that 65% of sampled social media posts contained outright misinformation.
65%.
And these weren't about harmless gossip. They were about volatile political controversies, communal issues, and COVID-19.
But the most concerning part is how people interact with it. The study found that posts with misinformation received 40% more shares and 30% more comments than accurate posts.
Because the truth is complicated and nuanced, outrage goes viral instantly. A wildly fabricated video gets forwarded to every WhatsApp group in the state within an hour.
WhatsApp is the ultimate amplifier here. Because it's closed and encrypted, unverified content circulates without context or fact checkers. It creates intense, localized echo chambers.
And this drive for clicks has a dark consequence. The active communalization of news. Channels realize nothing drives engagement faster than making people hate each other.
We see this in the regulatory actions of the NBDSA. They've had to penalize major national networks for using toxic, deliberately inflammatory language.
They weren't fined for factual errors. They were penalized for framing debates around terms like love jihad or calling protesters a stone pelter army or warning of an impending civil war.
The NBDSA literally ordered channels to take down videos and pay fines because they were actively destroying communal harmony just to keep viewers angry and watching.
But just as we think it's all toxic wasteland, there is a fascinating counterexample, because not all media is the same, and the line between sensationalism and necessary journalism is razor thin. Let's look at the Sathankulam lockup death case in 2021.
This is a vital case study.
It involved the horrific deaths of a father and son in police custody, a clear case of police brutality. Channels like Puthia Thalamurai and Sun News were broadcasting the gruesome details constantly, keeping the story at a boiling point.
And someone filed a formal complaint, alleging these channels were over-sensationalizing the tragedy to stimulate violence against the government.
So the NBDSA reviewed the broadcasts. And what did they find? They ruled entirely in favor of the news channels. They found the reporting was intense, but factual, verified, and in the absolute public interest.
It shows the terrifyingly fine line journalists walk. You have to be loud enough to expose systemic wrongs, but careful enough not to incite real-world violence, all while fighting digital algorithms that reward toxic narratives.
So where does this leave you, the listener? We've seen how activist roots got hijacked by mass marketing, how politicians bought the newsrooms, how TRPs turned anchors into gladiators, and how YouTube supercharged misinformation.
It leaves the viewer in a highly defensive position.
Exactly. How do you survive in an ecosystem designed to trigger your anxieties and harvest your attention? We can't just stop watching the news, we need a toolkit.
Fortunately, the sources provide actionable advice for reclaiming the truth.
On a personal level, there's great advice from the podcaster on Varun Talks. His rule is simple. You absolutely cannot rely on just one source. You have to actively cross-reference.
He watches local Tamil channels for regional trends, but then he explicitly switches to international networks like CNN, BBC, or Al Jazeera.
Right, before bed, he does a full round of updated news from totally different perspectives. This breaks you out of the algorithmic echo chamber. You have to triangulate the truth.
But we also need structural solutions to the media politics complex. The first demand is absolute transparency in media ownership.
Viewers need to know who is paying for the broadcast. If a channel praises a policy, you deserve to know if it's owned by the minister's nephew.
And we must support alternative financial models to break the TRP trap. Subscription-based or nonprofit media houses like the Federal and the News Minute are attempting to provide analytical reporting outside the TRP model.
If you aren't paying for the product, you are the product. When you pay for news, you are the customer. When it's free, your attention is sold to advertisers.
And finally, it comes down to cultivating personal media literacy. You have to train your brain to spot the manipulation before it hooks you.
When you see a thumbnail with fire emojis and a red arrow, recognize it as emotional bait. Scroll past it. Because audiences aren't fools. As Srinivasan pointed out, that when channels provide good issue-based content, people actually do watch.
The audience is there for good journalism, but you have to demand better by refusing to click on the clickbait.
Okay, let's take a breath. We've covered incredible ground today. From the reformist origins of Tamil print to the political capture of TV, the desperate race for TRPs, the creation of news events, and digital misinformation.
It is a lot to process, but before we sign off, there's one final thought experiment we need to consider.
Lay it on us. Where is this heading next?
If the media's primary goal has shifted from informing you to merely holding your attention by triggering your deepest fears, what happens when artificial intelligence fully enters the broadcast booth? Imagine a near future where an AI generates a hyper-realistic, fully synthetic video anchor. And it's not broadcasting to a mass audience. It's delivering a script generated in real time, customized perfectly to your individual psychological profile.
Like it knows my search history.
Exactly. It knows your political leanings. It knows what makes your heart rate spike. If an AI can instantly generate a flawless news broadcast tailored just to make you angry, will we ever share a common reality again?
Or will every single one of us be permanently trapped in our own custom-built theater of the absurd? That is a chilling thought to keep in mind the next time you feel your blood pressure rising from your feed.
Definitely something to think about.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Tamil media landscape. We hope this gave you the tools to see past the flashing tickers. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this video on the Noolisam YouTube channel for more thoughtful content. Keep questioning the narrative, cross-check your sources, and as always, stay insanely curious. We'll catch you on the next one.